One. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Find Your Model Health, the official podcast for those looking to optimize their long term health and weight goals and understand how their body works. I am your host. I am Shemaine Linney. I am a nutritional therapist, integrative health practitioner, certified iridologist, and biohacker, and I'm very happy to have you back with me for another piece of your day. We have another amazing guest on. I'm excited for this conversation. I'm passionate, as you know, about teaching you how your body works. And the guests that I take on, I really believe can help us continue to learn and get different perspectives from their practice and their educational background. So before I introduce her, I must remind you that the information in these podcast episodes is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your health practitioner before making any lifestyle changes. So, everybody, please help me welcome Caroline Goodner. She is blessing us with her presence today on the podcast, and she is here to discuss all things vaginal health with us. Now, Caroline is the co founder and CEO of Organicare, a leader in transforming feminine healthcare by making highly effective natural products that are science backed and available over the counter through many retailers. Now, Femiclear is a line of these natural products that focuses specifically on vaginal health. And prior to Organicare in 2009, she was also CEO of Upspring Baby, a growth stage consumer products company that focused on the health, wellness, and safety of mothers and babies. Since then, she sold that company and then she moved on to specializing in what she does now with Organicare and helping women understand their body. So, Caroline, thank you for joining us today, and I'm excited to hear what you have to teach us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love that you offer this platform for, people like me to come on and talk about these important and really common issues. So thanks
Well,
for letting me be
thank
here.
you for doing what you do because not enough people do what you do. So, tell us a little bit about your background. So, you started off in the mother baby area, and then that kind of springboarded you forward to specifically the vaginal health area.
Well, I actually started a long time ago in the DNA world and did DNA identification and did some other stuff in the field of genetics. I've always been though really consumer oriented and wanted to do things that directly impact consumers. And so, yeah, the Upspring was my first kind of foray into the consumer products area. And so, it was related, but this new company, not so new anymore. It's 7 years old. I co-founded really with a technology in mind, and interestingly, we started out in a different area. We started out in first aid and oral care, using this technology, and then we learned after a couple of years that it was applicable and helpful in feminine care. And then we really decided to focus our efforts and development on the feminine care space because there's been so little innovation
Yeah.
with these kinds of conditions. I mean, you've just sort of seen the same stuff on shelf or not on shelf. Most of the conditions we treat, you can only get a prescription, and even that doesn't work that well. So
Yeah.
we just sort of evolved the company based on kind of what the needs were and what the uniqueness in the market was.
Yeah. And it's definitely a unique market, and there's a lot of potential because it affects every woman in some way. It's interesting that you say you transitioned from oral health to vaginal health because a lot of people don't know that our oral tissue and especially our nasal tissue is the exact same as the vaginal and the vaginal canal tissue. A funny side note, I don't know if you know this, but every once in a while I'll kind of spout this out to my followers that a lot of women, especially when they get turned on, they will sneeze a lot
Oh,
because the clitoris tissue is the same as the tissue inside the nasal cavity. So it's not unusual for someone to sneeze when they get turned on. Like it's just
that
a random thing that I know.
I learned something new. That's great. I
There
did
you
not
go.
know that. That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, yeah.
So, let's get into the vaginal health then. Okay, I want to kind of phrase this in two ways. One, why did you transition? Like what made you passionate? But I suppose we could go back to the very beginning of vaginal health and different considerations around that. So let's start there. Women don't understand their body a lot. So let's, if you don't mind, educate us a bit on the importance of vaginal health and the different things that we experience.
Yeah, so it's a broad topic. I'll kind of go in chronological order of what we've dealt with. So yeast infections and bacterial vaginosis are two vaginal health conditions. They kind of operate a little bit similarly in that when an imbalance in the vaginal microbiome happens, which means, there's healthy yeast and there's healthy bacteria, but if there's an overgrowth of one over the other, and they kind of act in a symbiotic way, but if one, so a very common reason people will get yeast infections is they get sick in some other way and they have to go on a course of antibiotics.
Hmm.
When that happens, it kills the bacteria throughout your body, including the healthy bacteria in your vaginal microbiome. And yeast has an opportunity to proliferate and overgrow.
Yeah.
So you wind up with a yeast infection in that case. And
Mhm.
so, those are really, really common things that a lot of people get. There are other triggers, not just taking antibiotics, but if you sit around in a wet bathing suit for too long, or you wear your yoga pants after a tough workout and don't kind of,
Clean
let
yourself
yourself
up.
breathe
Yeah.
in too long, an infection could get created. Bacterial vaginosis is caused or triggered by a number of other things. Sex is one of the main triggers for it. It's not considered an STI though, but it will. But because sexual activity can cause it, yeah, that's one of the most common triggers
I
for B.
have two clients, that spring to mind that happens every time they have intercourse, they get a BV infection. Why does that happen? Is it an immune response to the partner's bacteria or what is it?
There's a really good book called Strange Bedfellows, and it's written by a doctor who writes about all the different types of STIs, and
Mm,
she included bacterial vaginosis in there. There's been a lot of study, and there's not any definitive answer to that question yet,
yeah.
but there is suspicion that certain partners are kind of incompatible, and that their semen may be somehow incompatible with a woman's kind of vaginal flora or whatever, and that can cause a problem. They had an anecdotal story in that book about a couple,
Yeah.
and when they stopped having sex, and he was in the military or something, and they when he came back, it all started again. So like she got better when he was gone, and then it all started
So
again.
he was the problem.
Yes, they together, I guess, were the problem. So, I don't, that's not like a medical, accepted thing, but they've even seen, women to women sexual activity can cause it also. So it isn't just the semen. It seems like there's something, they talk about the biofilm that might exist where bacteria could be dormant and something triggers them to, become more active and start replicating.
Mhm.
So that's part of the problem with BV is there's not enough known about it.
Yeah.
There are not good solutions for it. Even the prescription metronidazole, which can be taken in pill form or topical gel form, it only works in about 60% of the cases. So the women are struggling. They're suffering and they're struggling. And the worst part is over 50% of women who get a bacterial vaginosis infection will get another one within 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's this recurring thing, and so it's not uncommon, like you said, of that person who gets it all the time, and
Yeah.
certain things trigger it. And we can talk about kind of things that we have to hopefully help with that now, help prevent infections from happening. But those are two of the conditions. The third, one of the other ones is genital herpes.
Mm.
Um, and I'm this is the one that kind of breaks my heart the most because it's the most stigmatized condition.
Yeah, so
And
taboo, like you're dirty, you almost have HIV or something.
well, I think that whoever works on PR for HIV has done a really good job. I feel like herpes might be even more stigmatized than HIV.
Yeah.
It's that bad. And we've done a lot of consumer research on people with it and how they felt when they were first diagnosed and how they're managing it. A lot of people just feel like their life is over, their romantic life, sex life is over, and it's not. And it just, and so this is why I love the opportunity to talk about this stuff. Herpes is probably the one that is the most emotionally burdensome,
Mm,
compared to any of these others, although the others certainly make women feel bad also.
mm.
So from our perspective, the quicker you can just understand this is a natural thing that happens, take care of it quickly and get back to normal, the more we want to empower women to do that.
And it's very common. It's
Oh,
not
God.
what people think. It's not like 20% of the population. It's half or more of the population, which I speak about it a lot with my clients. I'm like, this I know it's upsetting. I know it's almost embarrassing for people to admit it, but I'm like, it's very common. It is very
Yeah.
common. So,
Well, it's for genital herpes, 1 in 5 women has it. So it is around that 20%, but many, many more people have HSV, and they just don't experience outbreaks. So they
mhm.
don't really know that they have it.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, 1 in 5 women experience outbreaks and know that they have it. But then there's also kind of there's HSV1 and HSV2, 2 different viruses that both can cause genital herpes.
Mhm.
So one of the most common ways of people getting herpes today is that they'll receive oral sex from someone who has HSV1 on their mouth, in their mouth, and that will give the recipient or genital herpes, just with that strain of the virus.
Yeah.
So just like you were talking earlier about, your these kind of tissues in
Yeah.
our bodies
Yeah.
are very
They're
similar.
the
They
same. Yeah,
are.
they're the
Yeah,
same.
yeah,
I think people have been led to believe that certain certain issues can be isolated to only one part of the body, but they can't. They can spread and
that's
they
right.
can replicate, especially if we don't have them under control.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And then
So,
one other condition we've just started to address is urinary tract infection. Also very common. Also can be triggered by sex,
mhm.
hygiene, lots of different things. But a lot of people get them and they know how unpleasant they are. So we have a couple of products that can help prevent UTIs from happening.
I see a lot of UTI issues usually come down to the imbalance of the microbiome and the immune system, especially with little kids. Hopefully they're not having intercourse or anything, but I'll get a lot of messages from parents, and the research that I've came across shows us that it's E. coli that's directly connected to UTI. So that's the specific strain of bacteria. Most people, I don't know, growing up in Ireland, I don't know what it was like here in Canada or in the States, but we were always, anytime I heard of E. coli, it was either if you don't cook your chicken properly or if the eggs were gone stale, you were going to get E. coli. I doubt that's the case for everybody, but this is where the miseducation lies, that people don't understand. Like, okay, this isn't what is affecting my microbiome right now. Why is my immune system not strong enough to handle this by itself? What's driving this? And so on and so on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. E. coli causes, or E. coli getting into the urethra specifically is what causes like 95% of urinary tract infections. And of course, E. coli is also the main bacteria in our fecal matter.
Mm.
So that's, the
Not wiping
proximity and
properly. Yeah.
anatomy. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes
Yeah, so you've heard of the whole white front to back and urinate after sex. I mean, these may or may not be proven out scientifically, but they're pretty commonly understood as ways, smart things to do to just, every day avoid getting an infection.
Yeah, like the old wives' tales. They're usually right. They are usually
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, certainly some truth to them.
Yeah. So, with the vaginal health area in your business and your background, have you also looked at vaginal health in regards to other issues women would experience with tissue degradation, vaginal dryness, poor blood flow, all of that?
Well, they're related. So not directly, although that may be an area of innovation for us in the future. We've talked about it. But menopausal women will have laxity of their, tissues and muscle. And that is actually what helps create the higher risk for getting a UTI, for example. So women that are postmenopausal are more likely to get a UTI than younger women.
Why is
Um,
that?
because of your anatomy starts to sort of the laxity of the tissue
Okay.
makes it easier for that E. coli to get in the urethra.
It's just weaker, less integrity.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
And I suppose the change in the hormones because estrogen will directly infect
for
the
sure.
microbiome.
Yes, exactly. And so hormonal changes are another big trigger for yeast infections or bacterial vaginosis. So for sure. And so anytime, like you'll hear that pregnant women can get more yeast infections because of their hormonal changes.
Mm.
Similarly, menopausal women as well.
And then, apart from the physiological aspect of these vaginal issues, what are the psychological repercussions we can see from all across all age groups, not just menopausal women?
Yeah, no, I think, what we've learned from our consumers is, emotionally, it's tough to have something going wrong down there,
Mm.
whether it's yeast infection or BV. BV also comes with a fishy odor, and that's really embarrassing for women. And certainly, it kind of, anytime something's going wrong down there, it impacts their intimate life, their relationship with whoever their partner is, and that's no fun. Nobody wants to feel that way. And so it can be really damaging. And like we talked about with herpes, that can be really, really severe, particularly at diagnosis or in the first year or two. It's very tough for most people to adapt to that diagnosis because it's that one's for life, right? Once you get it, you have it. But with these infections, some women might just get one and never experience another one. That's great.
Mhm.
Others are unfortunately more prone to chronic or recurrent infections. And when that happens, it's just it takes a psychological toll for sure. We've heard adjectives used as dirty, kind of ashamed, embarrassed, not wanting to be intimate, all that sort of those are descriptions we've heard from consumers on how they feel
Yeah.
when they're experiencing these.
Yeah, for sure. It activates a huge stress response, and that
Mhm.
will have whether or not you have a one-off infection or lifetime recurrence, it is a stress response, and that is going to affect you on many levels. I specifically work with people in nutrition and weight loss, and any sort of stress is going to throw you completely off your plan as well,
Yeah,
and that has its own ripple effects
for
too.
sure.
So this is everything needs to be considered when looking at health and being optimal. It would be very foolish to put everything into one box. We have to consider everything. And infections, like we're talking about, they're going to have a systemic inflammatory response. Then what's that going to do? That's going to slow down your thyroid. That's going to slow down metabolism. Of course, that's going to affect your mental health, especially if you stand on the scale at the end of the week and you've
Mhm.
been good all week and you're like, oh no, what's wrong with me? Oh, but I have had this infection. Like, there's a lot of considerations when it comes to health.
For sure. And it is all interconnected. And I'm a big believer that, your emotional, mental, and physical health are very much connected. One thing can trigger something else. And And it may not be really easy to connect, officially connect those
Mm.
things, but when things are all going well and you're feeling good, generally you're going to, be healthier. So,
Everything is going good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
L- Like attracts like, isn't that what they say?
Yes, yes.
So I've heard you discuss on some of your other conversations entrepreneur qualities needed for success. So I was wondering if we could put a little twist on your education there. And and this very much relates to women's success, but a little bit of a twist, not so much an entrepreneur success. I have this question that just weighs heavy on my heart all the time, and I just can't get past it. And I think it's part of my personality, that I can't understand why women and so many people are not successful at their goals and what they want to do, or why they'll start to show up for themselves, but then something will happen and they will just stop. And I struggle to wrap my head around that. And I think it's because when we have certain personalities, we might get off track for a day, then we're
Mhm.
straight back on track. But for other people, that's not the case. And I'd love to know if you had some insight on that, because you do talk a lot about success. So this is success, but just not necessarily towards business.
Yeah, gosh, it's a great question. It's a broader question that, a broader topic that comes to my mind on how do you set goals? Are they SMART goals? You've heard about what that definition is. Are they really achievable? Do you know how to set goals? If it's a goal-oriented thing, and it sounds kind of like it is with you. And so there are a lot of things that I've read, or books, that like tiny habits, not trying to tackle something that's too big all at once, and to know how to just make little changes every day. But behavioral change is tough. And so if what you're talking about is more related to like weight loss and things like that, um, I know that's a really difficult thing to do, or even an exercise regimen, or something that requires a lifestyle change.
Well, in
Then
general, if you were mentoring someone to start a business and be successful with a business, if they were doing great for a couple of weeks and then all of a sudden they just stopped, have you noticed a trend? Why would that happen? Why do people do that?
I think when it's a business oriented thing, and not sort of like behavioral change for yourself, when it's a business thing, there are certain elements that you kind of need to put in place, and it's creative. Spend more time on the planning, and that doesn't mean you have to write some very formal kind of old timey business plan. It just is like, okay, getting clarity
Mm.
on what are you going to get done. One of the things I love is a thing that says, if you have one goal, you're really likely to get it. If you have two, maybe three max, over three, you're not going to get any of them. Because
So
you
one
are
at a time.
overwhelmed. Yeah, no, I mean, just you've got to really focus in on what matters most, and those other things that you want to get done, they may be important, but you have to put them later. Like,
Mm.
get the first thing done first. And I think sometimes people try to do too much at once, and others don't really figure out what are the tools I need in order to get done this important thing, or a couple of things that I've decided I want to get done, and to break it out into time bound, periods. So, quarterly planning is something that we do all the time. There's a, I'm in an entrepreneur group, and so there's a lot of teachings and learnings that you can do on best practices on how to set this up. It's not a novel idea by any means, but it is being disciplined about how you set that up, and being really religious about sticking with it,
Mhm.
and not letting it, kind of fall to the wayside.
So having a plan, being disciplined, not overwhelming yourself, because your specialty is business, but that very much could be very relevant to people optimizing health and weight goals. And how important, back to the business, because again, it bleeds, they all go hand in hand, I think. the how important do you think it is to have a group? You said you're in a group, or to have a mentor or a coach or something. Do you think someone can be successful by themselves? Obviously, there's going to be exceptions with different personality types, but do you think there's higher likelihood of success when you are involved in a group or have a coach or a mentor kind of pushing you or guiding you along?
For sure, for sure. I'm a huge believer in whether it's a peer group or a coach or both. I absolutely think that that is a critical component because it's like it's a bit of an accountability aspect to it. You know, if you're gonna have to go talk to this person, you want to be making the progress that you said out loud. I mean, everybody says if you
Mhm,
write your goals down, they're much more likely to happen. Similarly, if you tell somebody this is what I want to do, and then you're regularly meeting with them,
mhm.
you're much more likely to take action on it. You know, so that's holding yourself accountable by way of a peer group or a coach or someone like that, that is a really good way to do it, in my opinion.
Do you think as a coach or mentor, the tough love approach works better nowadays, or more that softer? Before you answer that, from what I've seen over the years, obviously in my industry, is that, as we say in Ireland, mollycoddling people or wrapping people in cotton wool has gotten people nowhere. People do need a bit of that, not make don't make people cry, but the whole approach of being real with people, calling them out, helping them create awareness around, like, okay, this was probably not your best choice. What could we do next time? Rather than saying, I don't like so much the approach of people saying, well, it's done now. Don't beat yourself up, just move on. I think that's negligible. I think people need to have awareness of their decisions, otherwise they won't learn from them.
Yeah, and it really doesn't have to be tough love. It's more like the objective. Didn't you said you wanted to do this XYZ, right?
Yeah.
So did you really you know, I mean, there's a way to do it. And I do think that style, like the coaching or mentor style, highly, you know, how you do that highly depends on how that person is, what they're
Mhm.
going to respond to. Because different personalities are going to respond to different things. But I'm with you that if you blow things off, when you don't do what you say you're going to do,
Yeah.
and that gets overlooked or brushed past, and there's no accountability for it, then you're kind of, it's a slippery slope, and you're kind of not, you know, there's got to be a way to say, I want to be held accountable. Then maybe what does that mean for you? What is, you know, what does being held accountable mean? And if
Mhm.
somebody says from the outset what that is, then that happens, that's going to feel more, you know, I asked for this, I wanted this, you know,
Yeah.
and it's like kind of just sort of being hit with reality of what they have chosen to do. Someone else isn't saying, here, I'm going to tell you what your goals are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, and different people are going to respond to different coaching practices. And I definitely don't make people cry. I'm not the mean one shouting, but I think I do get a little bit of grace because of the Irish personality. We have a tendency to not be as people, so I think that people expect it almost. So I
I like it. I
I
like directness, and I think that's good.
yeah,
And,
I just
and in many ways, you know, if you are going to go find a coach or a mentor, you're looking to them to
yeah.
help you stay on track. I mean,
Well,
that's
yeah.
the whole role, right? And to remind the person, you know, what did you want? And to like pull from the person, what is it they want? And hopefully, you know, they've made that really clear from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm like, "Well, you paid me for this, so." So let's get back to the vaginal health conversation. You've been doing a lot of research in this in your company. What is it that your company, because we haven't really delved into it, what is it that your company specializes in, and what are the products that you guys have created based on the research?
Yeah, so we've made over-the-counter healthcare products. We've had them extensively tested, and that's one of the things that's unique about us, especially for a company that doesn't make drugs but makes natural products.
Hmm.
So we've done lots of lab testing to ensure that the products do in fact kill the microbe we're trying to eliminate, like whether it's yeast or bacteria or whatever. Um, and then we've done clinical studies, putting it in the hands of, women who have these conditions to be used when they have the conditions. And then we get their feedback on how what their symptoms, how their symptoms responded and all that sort of stuff. So lots of studies, and we've created topical intravaginal products for BV and yeast, topical for herpes, and I think we talked about it before, sort of that protection or prevention of getting an infection. We have a couple of new products called infection protection, which is sort of more of a preventative to be used at your known triggers. So like if you get BV and you know that sexual activity may cause it, you can use this product after sex. So like your friend, she could have used it then. Hopefully it would prevent an infection from actually happening. So the treatment products you use once you've gotten an infection, but the prevention ones are sort of new on the market. We have one for BV and yeast and one for UTI prevention.
Do you think the BV one would be more effective if you used it before intercourse, or is the risk then that it would transmit onto the man's?
Yeah, the way of using it is after sex.
Okay. And so these are creams, suppositories. Is the prevention one a supplement? Do you have supplements? Like, do you have something people would take orally?
The prevention ones are both creams.
Mhm.
Our treatments are ointments, and we do have supplements. So for people who, just want to keep their microbiome, their vaginal microbiome in balance, we have a probiotic that can be used daily. And then for people with herpes, to kind of help prevent outbreaks from recurring or being as frequent, we have a drink mix with lysine supplement that could be used daily. And then we also have a couple of washes, vaginal washes. One just kind of a gentle, no fragrance wash that's very gentle to vaginal tissue, and the other one with lysine in it, geared more for people that have herpes.
So you have a probiotic and you've mentioned lysine. So what are the active ingredients in the other one? Like, are they altering the microbiome, or are they just amino acids, or how are they working, I suppose, is what I'm.
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick little science lesson. So these topicals, the ingredient that is our technology, it is patented. We have like 5 different patents on it. And it is, you start with a very high grade specific olive oil.
Mhm.
We get it from the Mediterranean. And then we have a manufacturing process where we oxygenate that olive oil. And over the course of many, many hours, the oxygen binds with the fatty acids in the oil, and it makes a natural peroxide. And so as it does that, and the olive oil is kind of fully oxygenated, it becomes an ointment. And so it changes form, but there's oxygen trapped in there, and there are peroxide bonds, and so that's what makes it so healing and so antimicrobial.
There's I don't know what it is in the States, no doubt it's the same, but here in Canada there are some oxygenated moisturizers and creams that people can buy, and the base is extra virgin olive oil that's been oxygenated as well. I can't think offhand
Hmm.
what the product is called, but I remember seeing them. I think they're popular. I think I remember a few people saying they had tried them, but that's interesting. Yeah, I had Lana Kerr, I don't know if you know who she is. So she
Hmm.
is creator of another product called CO2 Lift.
Oh,
And
okay.
their products are infused with carbon dioxide, so not oxygen, but their main focus is not so much antimicrobial or anything. It's more about tissue regeneration and improving blood flow in the vaginal cavity. So I think theirs is a suppository as well, or it's an injectable gel. something is inserted for sure.
Yeah.
But they're using CO2. They're not using
Interesting.
oxygen in it's almost the same context, but not altering the microbiome really.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then there are I don't need to put words in your mouth, but there's elements in extra virgin olive oil that are antimicrobial as well.
We've actually had our just starting oil tested for antimicrobial activity, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's already by itself. We think in log reductions. It's like a 2 log reduction, which means I think it kills something like 90%. Actually, it might not be that high, but fairly strong just by itself. And then once it goes through the oxygenation process, it's a 99.99% kill rate of
Yeah.
bacteria or yeast. Yeah.
So that's your main active ingredient apart from the probiotic that you have.
Well, the probiotic is a separate product, and that's an
Yeah.
oral. Yeah. So the main ingredient, yeah, is like this. I mean, we have other ingredients that we've added that are very well studied to be helpful in these different conditions and to help kind of fight those different microbes
Mhm.
that we have added to the formula. And so the final formula coming all together is what we test in our clinicals. And so you can't tell exactly how much of the effectiveness is from one ingredient versus another, but it is the final formula that we test.
Yeah. So you must be having some success if you've created a whole line out of it.
For sure. No, I mean, what is heartening is to see the reviews and the people who reach out to us to say, I've tried so many things, nothing else has worked. This is the only thing that's worked for me.
Mm.
Knowing that, you're really making a difference in people's lives, and that feels good.
Is your product available in Canada like as it is now, or is it something we would have to get shipped here?
It's something you'd have to get shipped there. Unfortunately, yeah, the Canadian health rules are
Yeah.
difficult. We've had a lot of interest, but it's a big hurdle to get over. We want to come to Canada. We're just still kind of building the business in the US, and at some point in the future, we do hope to get it to Canada. So
You just get someone to come down and fill the back of their truck and drive it over the border.
wish we could do that.
I know. I speak to a lot of innovators and practitioners in the States, and I don't know why Canada makes it so difficult. Oh, well, I'm sure I could tell you why, but it's just so difficult. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, every country is going to have their rules and regulations, and they're all different, and so it is a big hurdle, to get over to go into another country. But Canada is certainly top on our list.
Mm.
We're only in the US right now, and so, but we would love to be, in our neighbors to the north. So
Well, that's it. We
hopefully
are
that'll happen.
neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people from Canada are traveling to the States regularly. Like it's a simple drive over the border. So, if they were, I'm going to Idaho in a couple of weeks. Like, where can we find the product?
Sure. Walgreens, Walmart, Rite Aid, and many other like smaller regionals. But kind of drug is our biggest channel, and then mass and food.
So
So
it's pretty much everywhere. Like you
yeah,
don't have
yeah,
to
we've
go
got
look.
pretty
You
good
don't have
dis
to go looking like not to specific health stores.
correct. And we have a store locator on our site, so you can easily find what's close to you to go pick it up.
But before I
And
let
of
you
course,
go,
Amazon as well. Amazon is
I
and
wonder.
on the website,
We
semiclear.com
could
is,
probably get it on Amazon here. Amazon the States will ship to Canada.
yeah,
But so before I let you go, this just popped into my head. If someone did like the conversation we were having around BV, what
mhm.
is the product that you recommend they would start with or would be best for them?
For BV, I mean, if they have a BV infection, I would get our BV treatment. So it's just Semiclear for bacterial vaginosis symptoms. I
Mm.
would also get our probiotic as well to start helping kind of maintain a good, healthy vaginal microbiome.
And if it was the likes of UTI, do you have a specific product of yours that would be best for that?
Yeah, again, if you get recurrent ones and this, I should say the infection protection on BV as well. If
Mm,
you know what triggers your infection, I would get the infection protection as well, because then you can start proactively using it and not have to wait until you've got an infection.
mm,
On the UTI one, the two supplements that we have, in addition to the infection protection for UTI, we have one supplement that's more related to bladder strength.
mm,
So some people have more of an issue with incontinence and leakage and things like that that can also contribute to getting UTIs.
mm.
So we have one. So if that's more the issue, then I would get that one. Or if you believe it's just an E. coli issue, because E. coli will get trapped in the urinary tract,
Mm.
this supplement helps flush it out in three different ways. And so that's what I would get if you think it's more related to that.
Okay. Well, I just checked Amazon Canada and we can get Femiclear genital herpes symptoms one here, the multi-symptom one. So we can get that one here on our Amazon.
Awesome.
So it
Oh,
obviously is available.
that's great.
Maybe no doubt if you logged into the United States version, you probably get more, but that one is just on the Canada one, so that's promising for people.
Oh, I've never checked that. I'm so glad you did.
I try to be proactive.
That's great.
Yeah, it says all natural and organic ingredients, so I'm assuming
Yep.
it is your one. It's the same logo. Well,
Yep.
that's great. Well, apart from Amazon, tell us where else can people find out more about your product and if it may be beneficial to them.
Yep. On femiclear.com. It's FEMI clear.com.
And I see you have a quiz there and you have some blogs and then find stores. You need to add amazon.ca to that.
Yeah. I'm making a note.
Um, yeah, the website's pretty clear, pretty straightforward. I'll pop the links in the description. Do you guys do social media as well, or do you just stick to the website?
No, we do. So we're on TikTok is kind of our biggest platform.
That's
So
interesting.
I know, it just sort of blew up, and so we have like 380,000 followers on TikTok and a smaller following on Facebook and Instagram, but we're on all three.
Yeah.
So the social platforms are definitely ways that we communicate, but I would say TikTok is our most educational one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this conversation. It has been insightful. Is there any kind of message you'd like to leave us with before you go? Any words of hope or inspiration for people if they're concerned about their vaginal health?
I would just say the more conversation you can have about it, the better. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed. We all have one, right?
Yeah.
And we've all had problems, and talking about it makes it better. I
Yeah.
really am a big believer in what gets talked about gets better. So I
Mm,
would just strongly encourage that, because then you're going to find out things that you may not otherwise have found out, like what are some other better products that I can use to get rid of my problem faster.
yeah.
And it's really about taking care of the physical problems so that you can get emotionally back to where you want to be.
Yeah, you're right. Because if you don't talk to someone, then they may say, well, Chaga helped me with this. Oh, I might
Mm.
try Chaga. And maybe it will be a game changer. Like we have to talk, otherwise we don't have the full picture of answers.
Yeah, it's really true.
Well,
It's really,
thank you for your time today. This has been a pleasure.
thank you so
Um,
much.
have a great day, and I will be in touch soon.
Thanks so much.